Hello there guys, this is Jaggy-D coming right back at you with another video, this time about the SteelSeries Apex 7. This is a keyboard first released in June 2019, but can it still hold up in today's drastically different keyboard landscape? Let's find out in the first episode of Review Time. Included in the box is the keyboard and a rubber wrist rest. In my opinion, the most important part of any keyboard are the switches. I chose SteelSeries Tactile but Silent Switch, the SteelSeries Brown. They teamed up with Gateron to make a custom version of Gateron's silent but tactile switch. This can definitely be felt in the switch, as it does feel a lot more like a tactile bump rather than a hit, if that makes sense. An analogy for this could be that it feels a bit more like speed bumps rather than tire cutters, which is very characteristic of Gateron's tactile switches. Sound-wise, these will be very loud for anyone coming from a rubber dome keyboard, but for anyone already in the mechanical keyboard space, these will be just fine. The keycaps here are made of ABS plastic, which is a little bit weird considering the high price tag. This kind of plastic is well known to get shiny over time. Currently though, the legend is very clear and easy to read, without going for the gamery font that companies like Corsair often go for. A positive of going for keycaps made of ABS is that we have gaps in the keycaps due to cheap manufacturing policies. To overcome the tactile bump on this keyboard, a lot more force is required, and it is almost inevitable that you will bottom out. It is a matter of preference whether you like these switches, but I do like them as I find them quite relaxing to type on. The deep travel relative to a rubber dome keyboard makes each stroke feel more deliberate, and I find that my accuracy when typing has actually increased. And coming up next guys, is the sound test for the SteelSeries Apex 7 with brown switches. I found that when using the keyboard, the switches themselves feel smooth and not scratchy like some other switches, and this can be heard in the test. But I also think it could benefit from some foam or silicone dampener being inserted into the chassis, as whenever the space bar is pressed, you can often hear this kind of echo of a pinging noise throughout it. This might also be fixed by replacing the plate-mounted stabilizers with PCB screw-in ones. These can often help to reduce the rattle and pinging that comes from these. There are media controls on the board. There is a volume roller, which can be used to increase the volume, decrease the volume, and mute. And there is one button which can be used for play, pause, and skip. I'll say the button quality is fine, it's nothing to be, praised massively, but it's good enough and it gets the job done. The OLED screen is a nice but kind of useless addition to the keyboard. It does help justify the high price tag, but it doesn't have much function apart from showing jokes or messages. It can show messages, but currently the only supported service is Discord. However, I do feel that if you really just wanted this keyboard for the screen, you could just save your money and buy a second display, while still having enough for a nice mechanical keyboard. It is somewhat useful for changing profiles and basic lights in front of a computer that does not have SteelSeries engine installed, like a Chromebook. But, considering that this keyboard costs the same amount as some Chromebooks, is it really worth it? The keyboard has a USB 2.0 pass-through, which could be useful if you have a wireless mouse. You can plug your mouse dongle into there. However, I wouldn't recommend it for things like transferring files, as it does have a significantly diminished transfer speed compared to something like USB 3, which could mean your transfers take much longer. It does also light up, which could be useful if you're looking for it in the dark. The wrist rest does look and feel very premium. I personally find it to be a bit less comfortable than some other wrist rests I've used, but it does look very good on the desk and it does help support your wrists. It is magnetic, so it does stick directly to the keyboard, and the rubber pads do a good job of stopping it from sliding around. However, I do personally prefer the gel or memory foam wrist rests, which often come with keyboards from Logitech and Razer. So the RGB on the keyboard is really good, I would say. It's really bright, and there's a lot of flexibility in the software to be able to change it and make it your own. Although I do feel there is a lack of preset effects, like you might find in Corsair's IQ software or in Razer's Chroma. Thanks to the laser etching on the ABS keycaps, this does mean that it does shine through quite a lot, meaning that the legend is very clear to see in the dark. I do think the software is quite intuitive to use, making it very easy to get the effect that you're looking for. This is still a very expensive keyboard. Even in SteelSeries' own lineup, the Apex Pro is only £10 more. And with that, you get their new next generation OmniPoint switches, which have a variable actuation point. Offerings from Razer, Corsair and Logitech have all greatly increased in quality since this keyboard first came out. The K100 recently released is an amazing keyboard, as is the Huntsman Elite and the G915. Therefore, there are two types of people I'd recommend this keyboard to. 1. Those who can find a great deal on this keyboard, as it is a very high quality product and is often heavily discounted because of the age. And 2. Those who really want a SteelSeries keyboard, but want a keyboard with traditional switches rather than the new OmniPoint switches. This is a great keyboard with unique features. If you need any of these features, I would definitely recommend it, as the rest of the keyboard does hold up, and it is a very high quality product. So guys, that was my review of the SteelSeries Apex 7. Remember to like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more videos coming soon.